You're listening to PatchBay on tymkrs.
Welcome to PatchBay, show where we like to talk about audio engineering, recording, stuff like that. Shane and I, we do this stuff all the time, and we thought we'd do something to sort of share what we know with all of you. How you doing, Shane?
I'm having a good day. It's Monday for
Yeah, I'm
me.
having a good day today too. Actually, I had
Yeah,
really good spaghetti Addie made, and it was
there you go.
tasty. So that's
I
awesome.
I had leftover pizza, which was also quite good. Um, I wasn't productive, but I'm having a good day nonetheless. So that's okay.
Yeah, I almost forgot that we were recording. That's how good the spaghetti was.
Oh, really? That's okay.
If you're
I'm
gonna miss
trying
if you're gonna miss deadlines, it might as well be for good food, I
good
guess.
spaghetti. No, agreed. Yeah, I'm a huge spaghetti fan. I was yeah, totally a huge spaghetti fan. So you had an idea to talk about something this
Yeah,
week?
well, something happened this weekend. I thought I'd bring it up.
Ready?
As many of our listeners probably know, some of them may not. We record a lot of shows out of the studio here, and they're pretty much all sort of niche, esoteric sort of topics. This, that, and the other thing. This is just one of them. But one of the things we do is hackerspace. We got this like 3-story house, and the top floor of it's the studio. The middle floor is like our where we live, our residential stuff, and the bottom floor of it, we're working on building a hackerspace or a makerspace. You guys might have heard of that out there. So this weekend, like 25 people showed up because the local Linux users group decided that they wanted to come check things out and see where we were at with that. And it was just sort of like a 12-hour torrent of people in and out of the house. It was really fun. But
Nice,
a couple of the guys that came by are in a local band, and they were asking if I could do help them with a demo.
nice.
Now, normally we do podcast recording and stuff like that, so I'm not really set up to do bands at the moment, but we've got all the equipment here. And
And you can always rent gear when you need it.
yeah, well, I don't
Yeah.
think I'll need to rent anything. I think I've got everything I need to do it here. But yeah, I mean, you obviously do this sort of thing all the time.
Mhm.
Any tips that you would have getting into this? I haven't done any other people's bands out of this particular studio. What
Uh,
should I keep in mind as I'm getting into this?
well, I tend to ask bands. I tend to like to have a conversation with them first before we even sort of set up to do anything. And I'll usually ask them, even if they don't sound exactly like some big band, tell me who you feel you sound sort of like. And just to give me an idea of what the music sounds like even before they give me a demo or anything. Like if I kind of know they're like really into Iron Maiden or something, um, then you kind of have an idea. You can listen to Iron Maiden and decide how to go about how the mix should sort of sound in the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And the other thing I'll ask for, although it doesn't normally happen, is to get a demo beforehand, even if it's a rough demo or something on a phone or just something, just so I can kind of listen to the tune once or twice, just to get an idea of what the song's supposed to sound like. And then when you're tracking, I find that having lyrics is extremely helpful. Not like like it doesn't you don't need them, but if I have a sheet of lyrics in front of me, it just makes it easier to define where the chorus is, where the verse is. I'll usually sort of set markers as I go. So it's like, somebody will be like, "Can we pick it up from the second chorus?" Bang, I'm like, I know exactly kind of where I am, and having the lyric sheet helps because I can kind of differentiate that as I'm kind of tracking. And then later, when you're working on actual vocals, um, having that's helpful too, just in case the guy screws up the lyrics, or you can follow along and know where you are at all times. So that's I guess those are my sort of key things that I usually kind of talk about in the first place. But I think the most important thing is to sort of kind of ask, what do you sort of sound like? Like I'm not gonna clone you and make you sound exactly like Nickelback or exactly like whatever band is your favorite, but just to give me an idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that actually was the first question I asked him too.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a perfect one. And then the stuff like, have you had any other studio experience? What did work for you? What didn't work for you? That kind of stuff. Do you guys drink a lot? I know it's stupid, but sometimes, it's good to know if they're like a bunch of party animals. Because there's been occasions where I'll cut people off and be like, okay, you'll do better tomorrow than still work, banging your head. And then I guess too, gear wise, I'll usually tell bands like, yeah, change the guitar strings, change the bass strings if you can afford to change the heads on the drums, or at least the snare and the kick, because sometimes guys will bring in, like, it'll sound like a cardboard box. So that kind of prep stuff. Actually, I got a fact sheet I should send you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I do. I have one. I have one. I just have to remind me. I have one at it's on my work. I have a pre-set up quote paperwork, and it's always got the fact sheet on it. So it just makes it easier. Is all the questions that come up. But yeah, don't. I guess the only thing is like with your place, um, to a degree, I think it would have to be either live off the floor or tracked slightly separately. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a lot easier here to do it piece by piece, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I don't have isolation rooms or anything, so yeah.
what I was thinking about doing with my band was something along that line. Um, in the basement, the bass player has a 8-track um, modular recorder. I can't remember if it's chord or what, but you can only record 2 tracks at once. So I was thinking to this is like old school engineering, but to do it piecemeal to a degree. Start off with the band recording to um, like basically only record the lead guitar player and the drummer as far as microphones are concerned, but play as a band in the room and then rebuild it from there using the guitar players because he's kind of the main force behind one of the songs that we're thinking about recording. And so that's what I was thinking about doing, um, which could be interesting.
It sounds like these guys are pretty acoustic based,
Cool.
and they don't have a drummer, so they'll probably be wanting to have me put together drum tracks for them. So that makes that pretty easy. Something I've done
So,
100 times anyway. That should be
so
cool. I've got a nice big tall. This is an A-frame, and the front room of the place is 2.5 stories tall. And
nice.
the acoustic instruments like acoustic guitar and stuff like that just sound absolutely astounding in that room. So probably sort of throw the snake out there and just record down there in my music room.
I was gonna say, figure out a way to hang a mic somewhere. You got a ladder that goes that high?
um,
I've done it before. It
there's a
actually sounds
loft
really good.
on one side of it that this level of the house opens up on that side. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that I
hang one up there.
love this house, by the way. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the band members, one of the reasons why he wanted to come by and see the place is because he was looking at it when it was on the market before we bought it, and he
Oh.
walked in and he's like, "Oh, damn,
Kicking things.
I messed up. Should have bought it."
That's funny. Um. So yeah, are you gonna record with a click or not sure at this point?
I may just put the drum track together first so that they can feel like they're just sort of playing with the drums. I think maybe.
Yeah.
Some people do okay with the click track. I personally can't stand them. I want real drums.
Yeah. I sometimes will trigger. Sometimes I'll half or is it half it? Double time it in 2/4 and then trigger um so in 4/4 if you're at 120 you make it 240 and then trigger the accent and the unaccented so it's the kick and snare.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a click track but it's like dum chuck, which is much more fun to play to than boop, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah, the
I've done
click tracks are
that thing.
annoying.
I went to bed and had that thing in my head, like after like a really long day, just trying to sleep, and all I can hear is tick, 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 tick in my head. Like, oh God, I'm gonna die. Yeah, well, that sounds like it might be a fun little session.
Yeah,
Uh,
it seems like it'll be pretty chill. I mean, they're just sort of goofing off, so no real pressure there.
yeah, exactly. No, I'm sure it'll be cool. Yeah, like I said, I think the biggest thing is to sort of, you know, find out what they like to sound like and what they'd like plan to do, kind of, and just take it from there.
Yeah. Sounds like they are wanting to use their demo to hand off to local bars, clubs, stuff like that, as just sort of a here's what we sound like. Please let us play here.
Cool. Well, that's all right. We did one recording like that uh, with my band in the studio, and it was kind of that idea as well. But we ended up having an audience come down while we recorded.
Yeah?
It was freaking genius because it became a show slash recording session.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a live house show recording.
Basically, yeah, we had people in the studio. Well, nobody was in the room with us recording. We were in the room. Everybody else was in behind the glass in the control room. And Nick, the other guy at my work, who's engineering a little bit, he was one just sort of manning everything. And then there was about 10, 12 people sitting on couches, lofting around everywhere, and with food and stuff like that. It was really good. It was a lot of fun. It was just the only thing was it was sort of live off the floor. Like we did, there was a couple of songs where we did twice, but we did like we came back to it kind of rather than just like okay, we got to try it again, because it gets boring for for us guys. You get used to listening to the same song over and over and over again, but for an audience, it gets boring quick. But it was a really fun idea anyway.
Yeah. So I started my day to day working on video that I had to get up today, and I didn't really need to listen to it, so I threw on the Beatles, and I was listening to a bunch of their stuff, and every time I put on those old recordings, I'm always sort of a little bit thrown as for how crappy the the dynamic range is and the frequency range is on a lot of them. It's kind of interesting how different our capabilities are now.
Yeah. Well, part of it was that generation loss that happened when they were bouncing stuff. Um, when you listen to some of the stuff off like Meet the Beatles, like their first one, which was live off the floor in 24 hours, I think it was not two tracks, but actually three tracks. Um, for a while, Frank Sinatra had a machine that basically they put the music on two tracks and then his vocal on the middle track, so his vocal was always like nice and cooking. So from what I gather, it was either a mono machine or a three-track machine that they used for that first record. That one sounds really good, but some of the later stuff where they started experimenting, you really lost a lot of. There's a lot of frequency issues there. Have you heard any of the re-releases?
I listened to a couple of remastered tracks when I was doing my little playlist there, and there's you can tell that somebody was working hard to try to make it a little more full again, but if the material's not there, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree too. And part of I think not only them doing bouncing and stuff like that, but um the equipment back then, uh more importantly the speakers. I don't think that they had as much full range as we have now. You know what I mean? As far as listening back to speaker and room design and things
It
like
seems like the
that.
low end just wasn't there.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of oomph there. Yeah. But I mean, and it's not that Ringo had a light foot and Paul was a bad bass player. Paul was an amazing bass player. So yeah, I don't know. It one thing though that about their recordings, like from an engineering standpoint, yet there's definitely things that could be better. But and I'll probably get slaughtered for that one. Uh, but from like the stuff stands on its own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's totally listenable. It's just
Yeah.
when you listen to it up against things that have been done more recently, the the lack of frequency content in the lower range is just a very glaring. Um, best not to play it back to back with more modern stuff. Just play it with
Yeah.
stuff in the same context of what they were capable of getting onto the medium back then.
Right, I agree with you. The other thing too was like just mixing styles in general. You know, a lot of stuff has changed. Um, when you're dealing with recording, X amount of people in a room at almost the same time or certain circumstances at the same time, like it takes away. Like, there's so much stuff nowadays. It's like drums are tracked by themselves, and then you might spend 6 hours getting drum sounds, and then just replace them all anyway later, or add samples in. So the stuff is so much more pushed to the absolute maximum of the kick drum has to sound like the atypical definition of a kick drum in the dictionary. You know what I mean?
hmm I also think about it in live technology too, because that's more my background. Uh, this is like the earlier Beatles stuff is before Bob Heil came around and sort of invented the super loud stadium PA system.
Hmm.
So even with their live shows, they weren't able to project um, that low frequency material.
I'm still amazed that you can even hear them on the Sullivan recording. If you listen back to it, it's just like apparently they couldn't even hear themselves. Like, that's how loud it is with it, and that was like a smaller show compared to some of the sort of bigger places that they barely could play those shows. Like the bigger arenas, they had the there wasn't even sound control or anything. Everything was just pinned basically. Like the amps, there was no, I don't even know if they even considered miking. I don't know if they even mic'd his drums back then. I'd have to take a look, but yeah, they didn't. They definitely didn't play any or they didn't play a lot of live shows like they did. Obviously they did, but after a certain point in time, I think it only made sense to partially the material too. It only made sense to stay home really because the technology was
Yeah, so much has changed. It's great. I was just thinking about it while I was listening to it because I was thinking how funny it is. Like their playing ability aside, obviously, the fidelity that we're going to be able to get here in my little home studio is technically going to be better than some of the most popular and successful records in all of history. It's very very interesting to me.
from what I gather, I don't think that John Lennon ever had the ability to do 16 tracks with Beatles. I think when he was doing John Lennon and the Plastic Ono Band, he got 16 tracks, but I think that they may have had 16 tracks like in the very last record, but imagine that most of their lives was spent on 4 or 8 tracks. Like it's really amazing from an engineering standpoint that they did it as well as they did. I mean, it's a lot of pre-thinking, you know, instead of leaving everything to the last second and then seeing if it works in the mix or not.
Totally. All right. So this week you've been back to work. What have you been working on?
A whole lot of no sound actually. Just transfers really. Doing a bunch of LP transfers, but hasn't been as busy the last few months as uh, as I'd like it to be. So I was in game planning as far as getting some more stuff happening, but not a lot of exciting stuff happening right now. I'm hoping to get back in and start remixing some stuff that we did last summer. We're gonna put the final touches on a record. So that might be happening in the next week or two,
Now, is
hopefully.
that pretty typical for this time of year? I know it gets cold up there. Do people kind of do a little bit
Yeah,
less?
people hunker down. I always say I don't understand why people don't spend time in the studio in Manitoba in the winter because It's not. It's too cold to play road hockey. It's too cold to do anything. Nobody wants to gig. No, like why load drums at 2 o'clock in the morning and minus 35? Like, it only to me, I would much sooner be in the studio, in a warm studio. But this, I don't know. It's definitely the studio business as a whole has definitely I've started to feel the decline now.
Yeah.
Like I know the big studios, um, like a lot of the big studios went out of business in the last 10 years, but I'm starting to feel the crunch now. It's definitely there's a major difference between last year January and this year January
Hmm.
already. So it's definitely becoming more and more difficult to do what it is that I do. But I'll keep plugging along and figure it out as time goes on.
Okay, so let's see. Um, Other than that, let me see. What else have I been up to? Um, I'm kind of starting to get comfortable with that Reaper stuff. Uh,
Oh,
we're slowed down though because the platform that we're going to be releasing on, the Ouya game console, they're being slow with getting their software development platform stuff out and available to the developers. So I'm sort of like chomping at the bit here, going a little bit crazy. I guess that allows me to get some more melodies put together and whatnot, flush it out a
see,
bit more.
I did check into the Ouya. Finally, had a look at it. It's very nifty.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
a neat little thing, isn't it?
yeah, I'm actually relatively excited about it, and the price is right.
Yep.
Uh, so from what I gather, it's sort of like the whole Xbox demo game thing. You play it, get addicted to it, and then have to buy it. Just the kind of pay per play model kind of thing. But I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
So you guys can't really get any further than the first step at this point.
Yeah. It's sort of a strange problem with us because the guy that I'm working with, Roy Eltham, he's currently doing contract work for Valve Corporation. They did, stuff like Steam and Portal. I'm sure everybody out there is familiar with them. But he's been a graphics engine designer for, the top names in the industry for like 25 years or so. So he's like, as good as you're gonna get, right?
Hmm. For
And
sure.
the development choices that they're making early out the gate on the Ouya aren't to cater the development to people like him.
Hmm.
It's to cater it more towards people who graduated from Full Sail in the last 8 years or whatever. People who know Java and know how to work with the Unity engine and stuff like that. So
Oh,
people who they're more,
they're putting more rules in it.
well,
Uh
it's easier to develop on that kind of a system
huh.
if you don't know how to do it in the hardcore badass way that Roy does.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like if you or I were to try to record a band with, very, very, like with an iPhone or something like that. You
Hmm.
can do it. I'm sure lots of
It's not
people
the
have
most.
done, but
Yeah, it's not the most best way of going about it,
right, because
but
we
yeah,
know how to do it the right way,
yeah,
we would never ever like want to involve ourselves in the easy way,
right,
because we know how much better it can be, and that's the
right,
same situation we're in, with the getting the engine together for it because we want to do it the hardcore awesome way, just because we have that capability. So we're sort of stuck waiting on them to put out the tools, the hardcore tools.
Well, yeah, I suppose it would depend on the company's plan for, if they open it up to sort of the easy peasy version of it, then that'd allow more games but not maybe not all the greatest ones,
Yeah.
not well thought out. Um, if it's not, I'm not saying that it's easy to do, but yeah, hardcore means that you need to spend the time.
You can do an awful lot with the tools that they already have available. Um,
Right.
and they sold all on their Kickstarter. They sold a lot of development units, early units for
Mhm.
guys just like us. And I'd say a lot of the people who bought those are interested in developing with the Java thing and the Unity thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a good choice from a business point of view. I think it's great, and you can do a lot with that. Those people aren't going to be very limited, but
No. Yeah.
the way that the tricks that Roy can pull off, going native
Yeah.
and running it right on the metal,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can do so much more.
Yeah.
We can have about as much horsepower on that little tiny box. And I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, just look it up. Ooh, yeah. How do they spell it? OUYA.
OYA, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
just went
little
to
tiny box
Kickstarter.
that you hook
Really
up
easy
to your
to find.
TV. Just a little tiny console with an HDMI port and a couple of USB ports for the controllers. Simple little thing. And we're going to be able to get enough horsepower out of it with the native stuff to do like, say, Xbox level of graphics, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Uh, yeah. Actually, the way I found it, I just went to. I hadn't actually really spent much time on Kickstarter, so I just was sort of checking it out, and I just typed in video game console, and it was the first thing that came up. I mean, there's guys trying to kickstart, making their own games, not for the Ouya specifically, but that was the sort of the first thing that came up. So I checked. Yeah, it's super neat. If it is available in Canada, I definitely would buy one. It
Yeah,
all
it's going to
depends.
be an international thing, so that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we're always behind on everything. Apparently, your Netflix is 100 times better than
oh
ours.
yeah, 1,000 times better than what you
Yeah,
guys
our
have. It's sad.
uh, I actually have a friend of mine who figured out how to hack into the American server, still using his account. So he's got American Netflix and he's been bragging about it, which is probably not a good idea to brag about it
No.
online, but because they'll tighten it's all stupid copyright laws. But yeah, well, what speaking to that, I can't remember what it's a super popular TV show, but everybody is really like we're like 4 seasons behind on it or whatever. I don't know. I don't watch that much TV, but people are always getting into big fights about it because the thing is, if you're watching a TV show religiously, if you check the internet at any point in time, sometimes you find out stuff that you didn't want to know. Like
Spoilers.
yeah, and I was watching Big Brother last year, and I watched the whole thing up until the second last show, and somebody spoiled it and said who won on Twitter or Facebook, and I'm like, like I haven't even watched. Now I don't even want to. I don't even want to waste the hour to watch the darn thing because I know what happens now. So yeah, that I basically just gave the definition of a spoiler. But when it's 4 seasons behind, it's like you're way behind. So yeah, I don't know. Stupid Canada Netflix. Anyway, how are we
Sorry, I
doing for
can't
time?
help you out with that one, Shane.
I know it's all good. I think I probably still enjoy it regardless. Actually, I'm really enjoying Crackle. It's free on my Sony Blu-ray player. There's tons of good movies on it.
Yeah, I've got the Roku, and it's that's available on there too. I haven't much looked into it because, well, I have the
Uh,
U.S. Netflix, so
I haven't seen a Roku yet, but
they're
yeah,
nice. They're really, really nice. I love them.
yeah, on both my Xbox and my Sony, we're way off audio topic, but uh, my Sony Blu-ray player has Crackle, and it's a bunch of like B movies, but like there's like every Godzilla and Mothra movie you can think of. I watched Revenge of Frankenstein the other day, which was really good. And Crossroads. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good
Yeah,
one.
that one's on there. I watched La Bamba. Like there's a bunch of good
The cut and
movies.
head scene is great in Crossroads.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That whole movie is awesome. But yeah, that when he has the solo off with it's Steve Vai, I think, playing guitar. Steve Vai or Joe Satriani, I can't remember who, but yeah, at the end he plays the devil. Anyway,
I can bring it home to music though. At least on the Roku player anyway. There's a SoundCloud app, and my Roku's hooked up to my my Magnapan speakers down in my theater, And
Right.
it's nice to load up the SoundCloud app and sort of surf around and see what the independent, nobody's ever heard of guys are working on, and listen to them on really, really nice speakers instead of like a computer or something.
I love, I absolutely love the idea of SoundCloud. We have finally have a decent music app that isn't all about like the MySpace marketing BS. This is my band. We're the greatest band ever. We are exactly like every other crappy band on MySpace. We got all kinds of swag and no album for sale and blah blah blah. But and you remember the pimped up MySpace pages. I just like it's just really about the music. You get like one little picture. I mean, you can port SoundCloud and have an app on Facebook that's really sexy for your Facebook
Yeah, it's
fan
pretty
page.
portable.
Yeah, but as far as just like spending time on SoundCloud, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I like it because you can basically upload more than a demo album, for your band or whatever you're doing, um, for free. They don't charge you until you start getting up into. I mean, I think I got 50 songs up there before they were even worried about it. And yeah, as long as you know how to do things like embed, you can put it on your website. You can get it into your social networking pages. Links on Twitter to SoundClouds will load the song right up in the tweet. I can listen to it in my home theater through the Roku app. It's a really good platform for musicians. I think it's cool.
But
So everyone out there, if you haven't checked out SoundCloud, it's a good one to check out. And if you're a composer, with that Ooh Yeah thing, there's a lot of development teams out there that are working night and day right now to sort of get their titles ready. And I'm sure a lot of them out there would love to be able to get in contact with composers and audio engineers and whatnot to get their soundtracks really kicking some butt. So I don't know, check out the Ooh Yeah forums. I'm sure there's probably some opportunities out there for you guys.
cool. Um, so is that about all the time we have for today?
Yeah, and I think you wanted to sort of let people know that they can contact us and suggest topics.
Right. Yeah. If anybody wants to email or Twitter is probably the easiest solution. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
both on Twitter all the time.
but Twitter is probably the easiest. So mine's at obdgill. Uh, and yours is
At tymkrs, or me personally, at Whisker. So yeah.
and send us your comments, suggestions, etc. I'm really curious if anybody has any kind of topic that they'd like us to discuss or know our thoughts on it. That would be really interesting because I'm sure we could spout off on something for a half an hour. So, yeah, send us your tweets and we'll see what we can do.
All right, and you guys, if you couldn't hear those or couldn't make them out, there's links to them on the About page at patchbay.tv, and on the front page of that, you can find this show every Friday. Usually goes up in the evenings. Also, there's an RSS feed there if you want to automatically get the show downloaded to your phone, your iTunes, whatever. And a lot of people like to listen to the podcasts in the car on the way to work if you've got a commute. So the RSS feed is really handy for those guys. If you like listening at your computer, then you can just push play on the page. It's real easy. That's it for us. We'll see you guys next week.